Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today and for giving me the opportunity to present my paper. So, my presentation today is titled Perceptions of Secondary Stage Students of the Role of the School Library in the Development of Reading and Writing Skills in Kuwait. So, the focus of this study is the school library, but more specifically, it is about how students themselves understand the library's role in their learning, specifically in developing reading and writing skills. So, exploring the study's objectives, the study had three main objectives. So, the first objective was to explore students' general perceptions of the school library. This means asking whether students see the library as useful, supportive, and relevant to their school experience. So, the second objective was to examine how students perceive the library's support for reading skills. This includes books, reading lists, digital materials, quiet spaces, staff support programs that encourage reading, and such. And the third objective was to examine how students perceive the library's support for writing skills. So, writing support can include reference materials, research materials, citation tools, examples of good writing, workshops, collaboration between librarians and teachers. And such. So, together, these objectives help us move beyond the question of whether a library exists in the school. It helps us ask the most important question, which is whether students actually experience it as a part of their learning process. So, this is our roadmap during this presentation. I will begin with the background where I explain why reading and writing skills are important and why the school library matters in this context. Then I will move to the problem statement and research question. After that, the methodology will be explained. Then I will present the findings and we will conclude with the conclusion and a summary. So, to begin with the background, reading and writing today are essential for academic success, personal development, and lifelong learning. They are not only basic school skills anymore. Reading allows students to access knowledge, understand instructions, compare ideas, and build vocabulary. And at the same time, writing allows them to organize their thoughts, communicate arguments, and participate in academic work. And in today's educational environment, a modern educational environment, students also face a very large amount of information from digital sources. This makes writing and reading connected to information literacy. And students do not need to read words only. They need to understand, evaluate, and use information effectively. This is where the school library becomes important. A strong school library can provide books, digital resources, reading spaces, research support, and guidance from the library staff. It can also support teachers by linking library resources to classroom tasks. So, in Kuwait, the development of reading and writing skills remains an important educational concern. Although many curriculum improvements have been made, many students still need more structured support. So, for this reason, it is important to examine whether students see the school library as part of the solution. So, the problem addressed in this study is that as writing and reading remain challenging for many secondary stage students, by studying students' views, we can identify not only the strength of the school library but also the gaps between potential and the actual use, and we can transform the school library from being underused to being actually used. So, the main research question guiding the study was, how do students perceive the school library's role in developing reading and writing skills? This question is simple, but it is important, and it places students' voices at the center of the study. So, instead of only looking at policies, resources, or teacher expectations, the study asks how students themselves experience the library. So, moving along to the significance of the study. So, this study is significant for several reasons. The first one is that it supports the broader discussion about literacy development in schools, as reading and writing are core educational outcomes, and any institution that can support these skills deserves attention. The second thing is that the study highlights the value of the school library. In many schools, the library may be seen mainly as a place to borrow books or as a quiet room. However, the literature presents the school library as a more active learning environment that can support research, reading motivation, writing development, and information literacy all at once. And third, the study can inform practice and policy. As for librarians and teachers, the findings can show where students need more support, and for school leaders and policymakers, the results can support decisions about visibility, staffing, funding, digital resources, and literacy initiatives. So the literature review shows four major points. The first one is that school libraries can improve literacy when they are well resourced, effectively used, and connected to the curriculum. Studies have linked effective school libraries, programs with stronger reading motivation, better access to materials, and improved student learning. Second, librarians matter. So the role of the librarian is not only to manage books. A qualified librarian can guide students toward appropriate resources, teach information skills, support research tasks, and collaborate with teachers. Third, resources and collaboration matter. A library needs up-to-date collections, digital access, comfortable spaces, and activities that encourage students to read and write. But resources alone are not enough. So the literature here emphasizes collaboration between librarians and classroom teachers, because this what connects the library services to real school assignments. And here what makes point number 4 a very important one, which is the integration itself. So the integration supports learning. If the library is treated as separate from the curriculum, students may not see why it matters. But when library use is built into reading tasks, writing assignments, research projects, and classroom activities, students are more likely to understand its value and use it meaningfully. So moving along to the methodology, this study used a quantitative research design. A quantitative approach was appropriate because the study aimed to collect responses from a group of students and identify patterns in their perceptions. So the main instrument was a structured questionnaire. It included one open-ended question at the end, and the overall method was designed to capture both the level of library use and the meaning students attach to the library's role in their daily life. Moving along to the participants, they were 62 secondary stage students from one selected school in Kuwait. They were from grades 10, 11, and 12, which means the study focused on students at an important stage of academic preparation. A convenience sampling technique was used because of the school accessibility, and the researcher was able to distribute the questionnaire within the available time frame. As for the data collection, the questionnaire was distributed through the MyU learning management system. This was a practical choice because students were already familiar with the platform and could access the questionnaire electronically. Responses were collected through Google Forms. This made the process efficient and allowed responses to be recorded automatically. Participation was voluntary, and students were informed about the purpose of the study. They were also assured that their responses would remain anonymous. The questionnaire included close-ended questions and Likert scale statements. This structure made it possible to measure different levels of agreement, from strongly disagree to strongly agree, and the questions asked about library habits, perceptions of school library services, reading support, writing support, and suggestions for improvement. So this approach helped gather a clear picture of how students use the library and how they evaluate its role in their literacy development. I will now move to the findings. So the first set of findings concerns students' library habits, and this is one of the most important parts of the study, as the results showed rare visits were common, as 40.3% of students reported that they rarely visit the library, and 33.9% reported that they never visit. This means that almost three-quarter of these respondents either rarely visit or never visit the library. Also, time spent in the library was limited. So many students spend less than 15 minutes in the library per visit. Only a very small percentage reported spending between 30 to 60 minutes, and no students reported spending more than 1 hour. So, when students were asked why they visit, reading for fun was one of the major reasons, while others mentioned socializing, research and academic work, computer use. These results suggest that the library is not yet a regular learning space, but for most students it is used occasionally but not strongly embedded in their daily academic routines. And despite the low level of actual use, if we are going to the general perceptions, students' general perceptions of the school library were positive, as many students agreed that the library provides activities, programs that contribute to literacy development, and many also agreed that the library offers learning materials and resources that support academic success. Students also viewed staff support positively. A large proportion agreed that the library staff help students feel supported and included, which is a very important thing because it shows that the library is not viewed negatively and the students do see value in its resources, services, and in its staff. But however, there is still a gap. So students may appreciate the library, but appreciation does not automatically lead to frequent use. And this is why the findings are interesting. The problem is not simply that the students dislike the library. Instead, the issue appears to be that the library is not strongly connected to their daily learning habits. Also, the findings on reading support were generally positive, so students agreed that the school library provides effective reading resources such as books, reading lists, and digital materials. These resources can support vocabulary development, comprehension, and independent reading. So, students also responded positively to the library as a comfortable reading space. This matters because reading requires focus, and a quiet environment can encourage students to spend more time with texts and inside the library altogether. So, the findings on the writing support were also positive, but they suggest that writing support may be less visible than reading support. So, students agreed that the library offers reference materials such as grammar guides and writing manuals that can help improve writing skills. They also agreed that the library provides digital tools or research materials that support academic writing. However, the results suggest that the library has potential to support writing, but this specific role needs to be made more visible and more directly linked to the writing tasks inside this classroom. One of the key findings of this study was the contrast between positive perceptions and low actual use. So, on one side, students generally value the school library. They recognize that it provides resources, support, reading spaces, and academic assistance. This is the positive side of the findings. On the other side, their actual use of the library is limited. So many students rarely visit, many never visited, and most spend less than 15 minutes when they do go. So this suggests the existence of a school library alone is not enough. So positive attitudes are not enough either. So for a school library to influence reading and writing skills, students need regular opportunities to use it. So the library has to be promoted, scheduled, and connected to the lessons. So teachers need to encourage students to use library resources, while librarians need to communicate available services clearly, and the school leaders need to make sure that the library use is a part of the school culture. So the main message here is that the library has value, but its value must be activated. So in the discussion part, this contrast points to a weak library culture within the selected school. And a weak library culture does not mean that the library is unimportant. It means that the library is not yet a part of students' normal learning routine. So the findings suggest limited daily integration and students may know that the library exists and they may even respect its role, but they do not necessarily connect it to their assignments or reading goals or writing tasks. So, this may happen when library visits are occasional rather than planned, or when teachers and librarians do not regularly work together. Uh, the open ended responses also support this interpretation, as some students suggested having a weekly library period, some suggested adding a free reading time, reading and writing workshops, some even suggested competitions and stronger encouragement from teachers and staff. And one important point from the responses was that the library needs to be better known and more actively promoted. So, therefore, the discussion shows that the challenge is not only resources, it is also visibility, encouragement, and integration into their daily routines. Moving along to the implications of this study. So, it has several practical implications. The first one is that there should be stronger collaboration between teachers and librarians. Teachers can design assignments that require students to use library resources, while librarians can help students find sources, read critically, and support writing tasks. Second, schools can provide more workshops and programs. This might include reading circles, vocabulary building sessions, academic writing workshops, citation workshops, research skills sessions, and even competitions that encourage reading and writing. Third, resource visibility should be improved. So, students need to know what is available in the school library through displays, through announcements, teacher reminders, posters, classroom demonstrations, and digital guides. So, fourth is the school leaders and policymakers. They should support library development through staffing, funding, digital access, and structured library periods. So, if students are expected to use the library, they need time, they need guidance, and they need clear reasons to go there. So, to conclude, we will conclude with these three takeaways. So, the study found that secondary stage students generally value the school library and they recognize its role in supporting reading and writing skills. They also reported very positive views of resources, staff support, reading spaces, book recommendations, reference materials, and teacher-librarian collaboration. However, actual usage remains limited. Many students rarely visit or never visit the library, and most visits are short. This is the central finding of the study. So, students see the library as valuable, but the library is not yet fully integrated into their everyday learning experience. Therefore, school libraries should be strengthened as active learning hubs. This means more than improving collections. It means connecting the library resources to classroom learning, to increase promotions, support librarians, encourage teacher collaboration, and give students regular opportunities to use the library for reading and writing and in their daily assignments. So, coming to an end, we can summarize this presentation into three main points. The first one being that students value the school library. They have very positive perceptions of resources and support. Second, actual use is still limited, as many students rarely visit and most visits are short. This means that the presence of the school library alone is not enough. And third, that the school libraries should become active learning hubs. So this requires a stronger collaboration between teachers and librarians, more reading and writing programs, better visibility of resources, and regular integration of the library into classroom learning. So overall, the study suggests that the school libraries have real educational values, but this value needs to be activated through stronger promotion, structured use, and closer connection to students' daily learning. So thank you everyone for your attention. I really appreciate your time and your interest in this study. I hope this presentation has shown that school libraries can play an important role in supporting reading and writing development, but only when they are visible, active, and integrated into students' learning routines.